So for those of you guys who don't know me, Jeniece Wnorowski, I've been in the storage industry for almost 15 years now. So I'm really excited to, share with you guys the picture that I'm showing here. Makes me really proud of our organization because, as I said, being in this industry for a long time, I think I launched the first SATA drive, and I think it was like, I don't know, what was it to me, like 250, 32 GB. I mean, it's like tiny, right? So I've come all the way from launching that to now launching a 61.44 terabyte SSD. So this is, really exciting for the industry. This is showcasing 2 petabytes in 1U, which is like phenomenal. Not necessarily an edge example, right? But there are data centers in New York City who are like chomping at the bit for this thing because they're having to build up vertically to reinforce, floor space. So it's a really exciting time for us to see how we can enable some of this at the edge. So just to give you a little bit of a flavor of our overall portfolio, we have some cool little bubbles on the chart here, but I'll explain what it is. So being that we have been from Intel, now part of SK, and have become Solidigm, as Roger has said, we have a lot of industry knowledge with a ton of different partners. And we really listen to our partners and where it is they're going with their business model, 10 years out. That's what reinforces our roadmap. So you'll see we're not a one size fits all. We have various form factors. That's what those little boxes are conveying here. And I've got some samples I can share around the room so you guys can take a look at them. If you have not yet seen an actual SSD form factor, what does it look like? U.2, it's a legacy form factor. It's been around for some time. E1.S and E3.S are newer, right? They haven't been out for that long, but it's kind of the new trend and go into different types of systems. And then, of course, we have, our latest D5 P5336. That's our big 61 terabyte SSD that fits into an E3.S form factor. I'm sorry, the 61.44 does not. That fits into our U.2, which is this guy here. And then the long skinny ruler looking thing at the very bottom of the chart here, which is the E1.L. So that's the correct industry standard form factor name. And so that was on the picture before. So depending on the workload, depending on the use case, these form factors can, fit a multitude of edge use cases, right? Not everything it is going to be, a 4-box SSD with U.2, right? It might be an M.2 use case or, even an E3.S. So we're excited about where we're going to take these into the future. And then just as Roger was kind of talking through, the different AI segments, right? The world is becoming more of a read-intensive world, right? More workloads are read dominant. We've done a pretty fair job of comparing our latest QLC SSDs for the edge and other applications against other competitors that we have on the list here. And all of these drives that we've tested have, at parity performance with TLC, so really strong read performance overall. And you can kind of, guess who these guys are, right? Timid will talk about it a little bit more. Yeah, yeah. You could go through the legalese if you want, but I won't call them out. But the bottom line is in terms of cost, in terms of overall performance, these drives are really going to make an impact in the market, especially when looking versus, say, a hard disk drive, right, where there's all kinds of other concerns. So we're excited to continue to expand on this portfolio and keep bringing these data points to life. I mentioned the form factors, so just to spend a little bit of time here. These are kind of new and up and coming, as I said, looking forward, right? All of these drives will be, I think, what you see on the market for the most part, maybe displacing a bit of the U.2. But overall, improved serviceability, right? Being able to plug these things into the front plane of a system and not have to, load them through the back plane. If any of you have ever had to pull a rack out of a data center, it's freaking heavy, right? Like, I was just like, oh my God, what does this weigh? Especially if they're fully populated. So to have to go back to the back and pull everything out, it just makes it really, really difficult. I mentioned earlier, right, packing a ton of capacity into a small footprint. This is going to be, hugely advantageous. And Jordan, when he speaks in a little bit, is going to talk about what the value of that is, especially when it comes to the military. Having, a 61 terabyte drive times 4 in a little box is a game changer. especially if they're running an AI algorithm on top of that. And then in terms of just, again, being future ready, I think I mentioned this, but these drives are, this form factor in particular is ready to go for PCIe Gen 5 and 6, CXL. So this is the way of the future. And then, of course, my favorite, system airflow, right? It's all about sustainability at the edge. How do we make things cooler, right? We can't have things overheating, having IT guys go out and have to swap things out because things have, gone south, which often happens with hard disk drives. On the back end of our E1.L is something called a vertical sail. So it's a fin that sits on the back end of the drive, and it actually pushes the airflow down, which I don't have an example for you here to see today, but it's that skinny guy there. And if you can imagine like a fin on the back of that. And then also there's two little kind of buttons on the front where you can see if the drive is, needs servicing and whatnot. So all that's kind of built in, and it's obviously not an airflow example, but just a cool feature that these drives have. So.
One thing else I wanted to mention, as long as we're talking about cooling, is, and I'm going to get this wrong, you can look it up, but Intel has just released a reference architecture for and design guides on their immersion cooling, and they chose Solidigm drives, as I believe we are the only SSDs qualified with the, let's call it, Intel Immersion Cooling Initiative. I forgot exactly what it's called, but close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably see more of that, especially as we go into other events this year at OCP. We'll see other partners kind of showcasing our drives in cooler environments. Okay, so I will pass the form factors around so you guys can. And then so last slide here, just again, our expanded portfolio, again, core to edge. To me, it's going to go into a little more detail around the specifics of the drives, right, and how they work. But at the top of the list here, our D7 family, that is our TLC-based drives, high performance computing, fast drives, but there may be some instances where, say, an AI ingest example, right, at the edge where, you might be needing to deploy a TLC SSD. At the lower end, the purple boxes here, this is the QLC swim lanes. This is where we're going to see most of our drives end up at the edge. Again, because of the overall density, because of the read-intensive nature of those workloads. You'll see content delivery networks. I know Roger touched on that. Machine learning, of course, Ceph, object storage. All of those things are really read-intensive and desire drives that have that capacity and that performance at the same time. So we're excited to see what new partners we have in the industry over the next few years and really changing the game for edge.